Today I'm sharing a recipe for sourdough hot cross buns, perfect for serving on Good Friday with your evening meal after breaking your fast. Hi sweet friends, I'm Mary and welcome back to Mary's Nest, where I teach traditional cooking skills for making nutrient-dense foods including bone broths, sourdough bread, ferments, cultured dairy, and more. When I was growing up, my mother always served hot cross buns on Good Friday with our evening dinner. And today I want to share with you a recipe that involves using sourdough starter. You're going to need to use 2 cups of sourdough starter, and you're going to want to make sure that you've fed your sourdough starter the night before. And the sourdough starter I'm using is what's called a 100% hydration starter, meaning that when I feed my sourdough starter, I feed it with equal amounts of flour as I do water. So I just wanted to let you know for this recipe, you want your sourdough starter that you're using, the 2 cups, to be one that's a 100% hydrated sourdough starter. So in my stand mixer, I've got 2 cups of my sourdough starter. Now I'm doing this in a stand mixer, but you can certainly mix this by hand. It's just the mixer does make a little quicker work of it. Now to my starter, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of sugar, and this is just a white organic sugar. And I've got the zest of 2 oranges. Now I had 2 medium-sized oranges. If you have a large orange, that'll do too. And you're going to want to save the juice and put that aside because we're going to use that mixed with honey later to glaze the rolls. So then I'm just going to go ahead and add this zest right in like that. Then I've got 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. I've got a half a teaspoon of cloves and a half a teaspoon of allspice. Now the spices for hot cross buns is really flexible. Some people will add cardamom, some people will also add nutmeg. It's really your choice and what you like. So I'll go ahead and add these spices in. Now to this, you're going to want to add 2 eggs and a 1/4 cup of honey. I've got a dark honey here. You can use any kind of honey you want. And I'm just going to beat these eggs with the honey ever so slightly, and then we'll get ready to add the rest of the ingredients to this. Now to the honey and egg mixture, we're going to go ahead and add in 1 cup of milk. And we're also going to add in 1 cup of water. And then we'll just give this a little mix to get everything incorporated. And then we're going to go ahead and add this right into our sourdough mixture. I'm just going to attach my dough whisk now because that's what we're going to need for this. And we're just going to give this a little quick whirl around just to get everything incorporated. Now I've got 7 cups of all-purpose flour here. Some of you may know it as plain flour. And I'm just going to start incorporating this little by little. What we're wanting is a very sticky dough. So I'm just going to start this on low so the flour doesn't fly everywhere, and we'll start incorporating these 7 cups of flour. Well, that just took a few minutes, and halfway through I stopped the mixer and pulled the dough down to make sure that everything would be thoroughly incorporated. Now I'm going to let this rest for 20 minutes, and then we'll come back and add in the rest of the ingredients. And as I let this rest for 20 minutes, I'm going to just give it a little cover here to keep it warm. Well, I let this rest for 20 minutes, and the reason that I do that is whenever I'm working with sourdough, I always like to give the little sourdough starter, get kind of a head start, so to speak, before I add in the salt, because the salt can sometimes inhibit the activity of the starter. It can even sometimes inhibit the activity of, packaged yeast. So I just like to give it a little head start, and now I'm going to add in the salt. Alrighty, so I've got that salt in there, and that was 1 teaspoon of salt. It's unrefined sea salt that I'm using, and this is 1.5 cups of currants. Now you can use any dried fruit you want. You can use raisins, dried cherries, cranberries, anything. I think raisins and currants are kind of traditional. Also adding in citron is traditional, but I don't have any. But that's the candied citrus peel. That's delightful. So if you have any of that, you can certainly add in the citron as well. And you just want 1.5 cups. So I'm just going to add in that dried fruit, and then we'll give this a mix just to incorporate. Now I just want to mention about working with sourdough starter If you're worried that your final baked good may have a little bit of a sour taste to it, you can always add in, especially if you're new to serving sourdough to yourself or to your family or whatever the case may be, your friends, and you're worried that it may have a little too much of that sourdough flavor, you can always add in about a teaspoon or so of baking soda, and you do it at this point. And that's something that James Beard, the famous cookbook author and chef, would write about in his book on bread, that if you add in a teaspoon or so of baking soda, that'll help counteract the sourness of the sourdough. So that's just a little tip in case you're worried about working with sourdough and it having that sour flavor. But in any event, alrighty, we'll get ready to mix in this fruit and salt, and then we'll go on to the next step. Okay, I've got the salt and the currants incorporated, and now I'm going to add in 4 tablespoons of softened butter. And then I'm going to knead this all together for about 10 minutes with the mixer, and if you're hand kneading, about 20 minutes. Well, I kneaded the dough in the mixer for about 10 minutes, and it's all set, looking beautiful. And I'm going to put it now in an oiled bowl, and then I'm going to cover it, keep it in a warm place, and let it rest for an hour. Well, I let the dough rise for an hour, and now what I'm going to do is take this out and put it on a floured board. I floured my hands, and we'll just take this and punch it down, and we're going to put it on the board, and we're going to divide it into 24 pieces. Alrighty, well now I got this onto the board, well floured, because this is a bit of a sticky dough. And I'm going to cut it in half like this. And then I'm going to cut each one of these pieces in half again. And basically what I want to do is keep cutting them into pieces until I get 24 even pieces. Well, I've got them divided up into 24 pieces, and we're just eyeballing it today. If you have a food scale, it makes it very easy and you can get them exact. But we're going old school today. So I've got a 9 by 13 baking dish here, and I've buttered it. Now, if you don't have a baking dish this size, don't worry. You can just use a sheet pan and butter it, or put down some parchment paper, and that'll work fine too. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take each little piece that we've got of the 24 pieces, and we're just going to try to roll it best we can into a nice little ball, and then we're going to put them into the baking dish. Well, I've got these all rolled out and put into the pan, and now I'm just going to cover them loosely with this plastic wrap, and then I'm going to put this dish towel on top, and I'm going to let them rise for about an hour. Well, I let these rise for about an hour, and they look fabulous. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a sharp knife, and I'm going to make a cross across the top of each bun. Now, if you have one of those French tools for scoring bread, a lame, you can certainly use that too. But I'm just going to use a sharp knife, and I'm just going to make a little cut like this into each one. And now I'm going to brush them with a little egg wash, and all this is 1 egg mixed with some water, about a tablespoon of water. Well, I've got the buns all brushed with the egg wash, and now I'm going to put them in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. They're going to take approximately 18 minutes. Everyone's oven's different, so I recommend that you check them at about 15 minutes. What you're looking for is that they're very, very golden brown on top. Now, this is the juice that I set aside from the 2 oranges that I zested to add the zest into the batter. And what I've done is add a sort of a heaping rounded teaspoon of honey. It's not an exact science. And I've added it to this orange juice. And now I'm going to bring it up to a boil on the stove and let it just reduce a little. And when the buns come out of the oven, I'm going to use this as a glaze. Look at this glorious golden brown hot cross buns. They took exactly 18 minutes. And now what we're going to do, while they're hot, I've got the glaze, and what I did was that orange juice and honey that I had in here, I brought it to a boil and then put it down to a simmer, and I reduced it by about half, and now I'm going to brush it with this sticky sweet glaze. I brushed the buns with this sticky sweet glaze. Ah, it's going to be delicious. And I'm using one of these silicone brushes because this is so sticky that the one that I use for the egg wash is good for that, but with these sticky glazes, these silicone brushes work terrific. Oh, these are just going to be luscious. And then once I get all this glaze on, then we will put the piping on to make the cross. Well, they're all covered with the glaze now. I'm going to let them cool, and I'm going to make the piping, as I mentioned, which is just a little powdered sugar. Some of you may know it as icing sugar, and I'm just going to take some of that, mix it with a little, you can mix it with a little water, a little milk, just to thin it. We'll put it in a piping bag, and then we'll make our crosses across the top. Now, that said, I just want to mention that what some people do is before they put these in the oven, after they score them, they will make a paste of flour, water, maybe a little oil, and they'll put that in a piping bag and they'll pipe that across the top of all the buns. So they come out baked with the cross on. It's just a cross made of flour and water and a little oil. And then if you want, you can put the icing cross on top of it for a little added sweetness, or just leave it plain like that with the flour and water cross. So I just wanted to let you know that there are some options that you can do. But I do enjoy the little bit of sweet icing that we'll put on the top. Well, I've let these cool completely, and now I've made the piping icing, and all it is a half a cup of powdered sugar, or also known as icing sugar, and I added a tablespoon of water, and this is organic sugar, so it's not going to be super white, but it goes well with the sourdough. So all I'm going to do is, if you have a piping bag, great. This is just a plastic bag, and I'm just going to cut a little tip here at the bottom, and then we'll get ready to pipe on the crosses. And here we go, just across each one. Just like that. Perfect. And then another one, and we'll just keep going across each one. And that's it. Very easy. Well, I'm not a pastry chef, but I like to say perfect for homemade. And I tell myself perfect as I'm piping it because it gives me confidence. But I think they came out lovely. And now for the taste test, the most important part. So I'm going to cut one out and I'll open it up and we'll see how it looks inside. Well, this just looks wonderful inside. And the aroma, oh, the spices are just wonderful. Well, let's cut it in half. Look at this crumb. I'm so happy with how these turned out. Well, half for you and half for me, and between us two, goodwill shall be. And I'll take a bite into my half. Mmm. Mmm. Oh, the flavor and the texture. It's so light, so light. Look at this, so light and fluffy, and yet the spices, oh, you can taste the cinnamon, the nutmeg, everything. Oh, it's just delicious. I hope you'll make these. If you'd like to learn more about traditional cooking, be sure to subscribe to my channel, and then click on this video over here where I show you how to make a ginger glazed ham, perfect for Easter Sunday dinner. And I'll see you over there in my Texas Hill Country kitchen. Love and God bless.